Hi there, folks. This is Sean Broderick for Weiss Ratings. Today we're going to talk about Dr. Copper, as we call it, the metal that takes the temperature of the global economy. And right now, Dr. Copper has caught a cold, but it looks to get stronger. Now, we have seen copper prices fall hard in the past 5 days. This may remind you of last year when copper got off to a rip-roaring start to the year and then fell hard. The drop coincided with President Donald Trump's doubling of tariffs on Chinese imports. Now, since he did that, things have improved trade-wise between the U.S. and China, and copper prices slowly recovered. But then we had the outbreak of the coronavirus in China, and that sent the metal on another 5% skid. Why does this news in China affect copper so much? Because China is the world's major importer and major user. Now, this is all really perception. Previous disease outbreaks have not had significant impact on copper demand. That's just a historical fact. But the market is acting like it's going to be really, really bad. Interestingly, overall copper demand fell 1.4% last year. This was mainly due to a downturn in automobile sales, especially in China. However, those sales are likely to recover this year, and copper demand with it. The longer-term trend in copper is up, by the way, way up. Take a look at this chart. As you can see, global demand for copper doubles about every 20 to 30 years. There are many factors that go into this, but mainly copper is a very useful metal. We find more uses for it all the time. Copper was actually in a slight deficit last year with demand larger than production. That made for a deficit of 439,000 metric tons, according to the International Copper Study Group. In the grand scheme of things, that's really not so much. The difference was made up by stockpiles. The deficit will likely continue this year, though it won't make a big difference. The big difference in copper will come from the U.S.-China trade agreement, assuming that those proceed, and also, very important, market sentiment. Sentiment turned worse with the coronavirus, but the coronavirus is less contagious than SARS, and fears are probably overdone. Longer term, the demand for electric vehicles will probably be a major source of new demand for copper. Battery electric vehicles, or BEVs, contain about 83 kilograms, about 183 pounds of copper, compared to 60 kilos or 132 pounds of copper that you'll find in an internal combustion vehicle. It's all the wiring. What's more, the more energy intensive you make the batteries, the more copper that the EV needs. Here's a chart of that showing copper demand by battery type. And we should see rising demand for copper from electronics as well as infrastructure, power plants, power distribution systems, so many things. So longer term, the picture for copper is very bullish indeed. Now, this demand rise isn't set in stone. EV makers, for example, could advance the technology to where they need less copper. Other users of copper could figure out ways to use less. And I bet they're all working on that. Still, EVs and other expansionary technologies are a big source of demand and one that should give copper a long-term lift. Finally, let's look at two price charts of copper. Here's a short-term chart. You can see how the coronavirus outbreak in China hammered prices. And then we'll look at a longer-term chart. This really puts things in perspective. You can see how copper tested support, then went higher. We can't be sure, but I think copper's next breakout is coming sooner rather than later. Miners leveraged to the metal are a good way to play it. The Global X Copper Miners ETF, symbol COPX, holds a bunch of those miners. Now, in Supercycle Investor, we already have fat open gains on a copper explorer position. If you are doing this on your own, do plenty of research. I hope you found these charts useful, and I'll be talking to you soon. This is Sean Broderick for Weiss Ratings. Thanks for tuning in.